Hello, Queens, and welcome to another episode of the Lashes and Sashes podcast. I am Elizabeth Tran, and I'm so excited to be here today because there's so much on my mind right now regarding pageantry. I'm wrapping up what I am calling Pageant Girl Summer. I guess this was like the summer of last year, like Meg Thee Stallion's Hot Girl Summer. Now, apparently, it's like Brat Summer. I don't know. My younger siblings keep me young and hip. But for my pageant girl summer, I found it pretty interesting because I was able to take on a lot of different perspectives in pageantry. Lashes and Sashes is a podcast and blog I created in hopes of building a pageant community that promotes pageantry and all the incredible aspects of it. And my goal is for other girls and women to also use pageantry as a launch pad to anything that they set their mind to and more. So, with Pageant Girl Summer this year, I have been contestant representing the USA and competing at Miss Fitness Supermodel World. I was a pageant attendee supporting my friends who were competing at Miss Florida USA this year. I was a pageant judge at the World Ambassador Pageant Competition. And lastly, just yesterday, I returned from Nation of States as the reigning title holder and had to give up my crown. And so, looking back in all the different things that I did through pageantry, but I wasn't a pageant director, which I think is the biggest role that gets involved in the pageant system. We wouldn't have pageants without the directors who really put them together. So, all credits and respect to them. And I grew up in Orlando, Florida. I don't live there now, but essentially that is the host city for so many pageant competitions, especially national pageants for youth. So these, I don't even know if I would call them natural pageants, but think of like USA National Miss, Royal International Miss, Ultimate International Miss. In Orlando, there could be 3 pageant competitions every weekend for these contestants because maybe they won their state title sometime throughout the year, but these youth national pageants are anywhere from a weekend to a week long where they go out and explore the area, they do different optional competitions, they have different parties. And I would go to a pageant once a week over the summer, either as a contestant or an attendee making an appearance or cheering on a friend, or even as a vendor. There was a time period where my mom had crown handbags and jewelry, blingalicious accessories. So she would have crown rings and different crown items or garment rack rentals. She still does the garment rack rentals, and I believe still sells some of the jewelry as well. I know eventually we'll have her on to interview. I keep saying that, but we'll get it one day because we've been so busy. And for me, this month has been a bit crazy as well, balancing out my businesses with Digit Ellie web design and the Lashes and Sashes podcast, along with the clients that I have through Digit Ellie. But anyways, so back to my pageant girl summer. I think I had so many different outlooks on it. And it's interesting because I remember for the 21 years that I've competed in pageants, I've lost most of the systems that I competed in, but I was never so upset or heartbroken with the outcome like I was at Miss Florida USA. And during that time, there was the eligibility where I thought this was the last year I could ever compete. There was going to be no opportunity again for me to reach that point. I wasn't sure if my pageant career had come to an end, which then led to this whole identity crisis. And now when I watch pageants and I see young women upset because the outcome is not what they had hoped for, I think I go through like a little too far of an empathy level where then I put myself in their situation and then I remind myself of that feeling I had when the outcome wasn't what I wanted that final year at Miss Florida USA. And then I get unnecessarily upset. And this happened in even watching Miss USA this year, because you know what it takes. You know the work and time and effort, all in hopes for winning that crown. But at the end of the day, I remember that my whole point in creating lashes and sashes was to remind people, and I guess I really need to remind myself, that the outcome of a pageant competition never defines you. It is only going to be a stepping stone. Whether you win, you lose, you're last place, you're second place, it doesn't matter. I think if you win, you get the title for a year and it's a cool opportunity and you can venture out. That's what happened with me this year as Nation of States. But before that, I didn't win any pageant for 8 years. And yet, I still was able to do a lot of really incredible things, such as be part of a TLC reality series with my family or speak on a TEDx stage, not because I won a pageant, but because I went into a pageant as my most authentic self. And I used the skills that I learned to then hone in on what my actual goals are. Because even if you win a pageant, like I did, it only lasts for a year. It's not going to be your end all be all goal, because once that goal is over, you can't have this, I do have a slight feeling of emptiness of, oh gosh, what is the next system I'm going to do? Where am I going to redirect myself in competing? And I think that's the most important thing I want people to take away from this Lashes and Sashes podcast. We can do everything we can to learn our interview skills, practice our walk, be more presentable, really hone in on our personal style and presentation of our outfits and showcasing them for different modeling phases of a competition. But at the end of the day, this is all for our own personal development and growth. And your ranking by the opinion of multiple people is not going to define that. Even as someone who has been a judge in different pageants and have also competed in pageants where I have seen, there was a competition I did where five of the judges each wanted a different winner from their top five. So let's say Judge A wanted Susie Apple, Judge B wanted Jenny Cranberry, C, etc. Like each one wanted a different person, but they all agreed that Anna Orange could be the first runner up. So Anna Orange ended up winning the pageant, even though none of them wanted her to win the pageant. So even when we say it's a judge's opinion, it is the average of five judges, or typically like an odd number, anywhere from 3 to 7 judges. Even at NAM, I think there's 10 judges that are a part of it. And sometimes it's only point system, sometimes it's based on ranking. So there's a very subjective space that goes into it. So it's not a lottery where you're picking it out of a hat, but you can't exactly know, because there could be some judges, if I'm going to be frank, that are going to only give high points that range from, let's say the scores are 1 through 10, and they only give like 7 the lowest and 10 the highest. Or maybe there's some that are going to go all the way from a 1 or 2 and like that type of scoring from each judge is going to impact the ranking of the competition. So it's not like a clear A, B, or C. Did they, do 2 pivot turns, or did they smile and do a certain shoulder shrug on stage? It's so subjective, and you only have, golly, maybe like 20 seconds to really time and see how long or determine what type of score they will get in that phase of competition. So I really don't feel like it's worth being so hard on yourself in terms of a pageant score, because I would not be surprised if there was a judge out there that wanted you to win that pageant, but their opinion was anywhere from 33 to 10% of the actual score that impacted the entire ranking system. Not every judge is going to agree in a pageant. Even in Vietnam, I remember when I did Miss Fitness Supermodel World, a girl was upset that she didn't advance into the top 5, even though she made the top 10. And she had a coach or manager or someone that promised if she placed higher in her next competition that she would be able to receive something. And while I think, it's great to have goals, it's great to, push yourself to maybe make top 10 or top 5 or whatever it is, it's so hard to really measure that because you can't guarantee it unless there's only, let's say your goal is to make top 5, if there's only 5 contestants in the pageant. Even if there's 6 contestants, what if all 6 girls are really solid competitors? You don't know what to expect and you don't know where you're going to end up. And honestly, even for instance, before it was Nation of States, it was formerly directed through the Earth Eco United States Pageant Organization. So when it was Miss Earth United States, I believe now 9 years ago, I really wanted to be Miss Earth United States. And I didn't win that national title. However, I was a runner up, but I don't even think it was because of my placement as a runner up, but because of the work I did as a state title holder as Miss Earth Florida, where I hosted Model for Miracles, where I did my work with Teens Go Green. We had award ceremonies for our volunteers with President's Volunteer Service Award and Teens Go Green Awards, that I was then offered the opportunity to compete internationally at Charity Queen of One Power International in Taiwan and represent the USA. They covered my flight. I stayed at a model apartment. We had 4 girls in a 4-floor villa where each girl had her own floor, and our lobby had Chanel pillows. It was the America's Next Top Model dream that I never thought I could have. And it wasn't because I won. And it wasn't because the opinions of 3 to 5 people saw me on average as the highest ranked person in the competition, but it was because the person who could provide that opportunity saw the charity work that I did, that I could be a good fit for this international pageant. And so, all this to say again is kind of my main purpose in Lashes and Sashes is to note that if you competed in a pageant this summer, or if you watched a friend compete, or if you didn't even know anyone who competed in a pageant, but you were just watching the pageant, kind of interested, not sure what to expect, just know that it is the experience of pageantry that can really open the doors for you. Because I think all of us know, people who could win a pageant, but it didn't necessarily provide any stepping stone or opportunity for them. It's like that song from Hannah Montana, life is what you make it. So if you get a crown and banner and you do amazing things with it, that's really cool. But you can also do amazing things without a crown and banner. And honestly, even without pageant experience, I just think having that pageant experience can push you past your comfort zone, really channel in your walking, talking presentation, and really it makes the personal development within you hone in on, like, what do you really want to represent? What do you really want to promote? And even for me to create this podcast, it is at the end of the day for me to make sure that other girls and women listening to this know, once again, like, you are more than capable of anything you set your mind to, whether it is a certain ranking, placement, or title in the pageant space. And even without that pageant space, why would you want to win the pageant? Why would you want to make top 5 for the pageant? There's a greater purpose, hopefully, behind it. So, my goal of winning Nation of States, yes, is to proudly represent an organization that I absolutely love because of the international pageant opportunities, because of their inclusivity without trying to be inclusive and politically correct, if you will. They're just a really good group of people. But I don't have to proudly represent and promote that pageant by being their title holder. I can do that by being their contestant or being their former contestant. I've been doing that as being their runner up for a few years in the past. So there's always another goal that you should want out of competing in a pageant that can then open the door for you. So, another example that I brought up with one of my sister queens who is involved in the Miss America's Teen organization right now is how I really also wanted to be my state Miss Florida's Outstanding Teen title, with the dream of being the face of Children's Miracle Network. That was the charity they worked with at the time, to put my nonprofit Teens Go Green on a national scale, and really to gain the scholarships that they had in the national organization. However, my final year, third year competing, I didn't make the top 10, even though I made the top 10 the 2 years before. And I still gained those other opportunities that I wanted as Miss Florida's Outstanding Teen. So I, at that point, think I raised over $100,000 for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. We were working directly with the Orlando Children's Network hospital staff to ensure that, and then bring the kids from the hospital to model at the fashion show and have that red carpet experience. Teens Go Green was then put on a national platform that I truly believe is much bigger than Miss America's Outstanding Teen, by being part of Good Morning America and Disney Friends for Change, where I got to work with Zendaya and Jane Goodall and get featured on different local news channels about my nonprofit work. And then through the Miss America's Teen program, again, similar to that modeling redemption era, I was able to explore so many other scholarship opportunities that were out there for my state, for me. And so it just goes to show that, once again, I'm so adamant about promoting pageantry because, win or lose, the journey it takes for you to prepare, to put yourself out there, to really align and speak out the goals you believe in and plan out how you're going to get there, and focus on the things that you can control, because you can't control the average opinion of 3 to 10 people and their subjective scores. That, it's tough to really determine whether or not we can win a certain pageant competition. But what we can determine is how we use that experience to then take us to that next level. And even, attending Miss Florida USA, I always bring it up because it does have such an emotional pull on me after the kind of identity crisis that I went through, that my heart breaks for contestants that really poured their heart and soul into preparing for the competition. I'm on the edge of my seat, so excited for my friends competing, because I have seen them level up. I have seen them really push themselves to be the best, strongest, most beautiful, most empowered version of themselves. But I don't want it to be taken away once the outcome is not what we had hoped for. And I I just remember that feeling. I remember, oh my gosh, now that it's over and it's not what I wanted, what what is next out there? What is next for me to do? But if your plan was, I mean, for me, my plan at that time was to be, if I was Miss USA, I would work with the United Nations. I would do those street photo shoots walking around to go to New York Fashion Week, the shows, like the past Miss USAs did during like uh, Demi Lee Peters' years as Miss Universe when they lived in that New York apartment. And even though I never won or placed in the state level, I was still able to do that New York Fashion Week United Nations dream because you really don't need the title to get you to that place. But I know that the experience that I have and that dream and that vision that I set for myself, I can still get there with or without the crown. And if I have it with it, great. I can, use that as a stepping stone. I think winning Nation of States really motivated me and gave me that extra push to put myself in that position. Also, winning their top model award, I was able to model for Jonathan Kane, Glamour Girl Boutique. So then I was like, okay, yes, let's go all in with New York Fashion Week. However, I don't have a title now, and I can still do all those things regardless. So it just goes to show that we celebrate pageantry and we take part in pageantry because it's about the growth and how it can challenge you to take on the next step. And if it's not there to challenge you, and if your only goal is to get what pageant girls like to call, quote unquote, the shiny hat, um, we can just buy them on Amazon or eBay and put that on our heads and say that, we are Miss whatever title we want to call ourselves. Or we can even buy sashes and go on Etsy and get custom sashes that we wear and, go out the town and make appearances that way. But that's not what pageantry is about. Pageants are a sport. And yes, there are winners, losers, rankings in competition, but competition is only one small part of pageants. The other aspects are when you are a local title holder or even state title holder going out in your community. What is it that you want to promote in pageantry? Really, the preparation, I think, is one of the most valuable assets. So, for me, when I prepared for swimsuit competition, what do I do to ensure that I am physically and mentally in a strong, healthy mindset, doing long term planning for my meal preps, for my personal trainer or fitness classes? But all this, again, to say that we are so worthy. We are so valuable. And I think if you are even putting yourself out there to compete in a pageant and to prepare yourself to be a better version of yourself, bravo. Kudos to you for even taking the time, energy, investment to compete in this subjective and somewhat complicated sport of pageantry, because we are, in doing so, promoting a business and industry that is so focused on woman leadership, woman participation, woman consumption. And it, once again, provides that stepping stone and opportunities for women to do more in their lives, in their career, in their academia, whatever it is that they want to do. I guess that other purpose for me of promoting Lashes and Sashes is to remind people once again that we need to continue supporting women owned businesses, women run industries, women participated industries, because that is how we are going to continue to empower ourselves and, again, have the option to choose what we want to do with our lives and with our careers. If we want to live a more traditional role, that is fine. But if we want to live beyond that and also have a career in a different space that is dominated by men, do not feel intimidated by that, to not kind of face our own fears and our own imposter syndromes. Pageants, the most valuable thing I think it's given me and many of the other women that I've talked to is confidence. But where we can step in from that confidence is even further promoting stories that we're passionate about, inspiring other girls and women, and really reaching our other goals in our career and our lives. So, another thing, I guess, comparing my pageant girl summer this year as a 29-year-old woman versus when I was a teenager living in Orlando going once a week, is that as you get older, especially if you grow up competing in pageants, your mind will grow. You will have a lot more maturity, capable of taking on more responsibility, but your body will get more sore over time. So, what I mean by this is my first international pageant, I turned 21. I had the energy. I could sleep for 3 hours, 2 or 3 days in a row. And but I wasn't the most responsible. So when I competed at Florida USA when I was maybe like 26 or 27 years old, I left my car keys. I could not find them for the life of me. So the first day of competition, I was so in my head about finding my car keys, because it also had my house keys and everything else I needed. So that was a little stressful. And I know competing internationally as well, I have seen that because I've had more experience and more time and more wisdom as I've aged, I already have the checklist. I already mentally have in the back of my head, my cell phone is here. I'm putting it in a safe place. I have anything that is important to me kept with me at all times. So just being more mindful of not leaving important things out, because in pageants you are running around, especially in international pageants. But with that, with the body being sore, the year I competed at Nation of States and won, I had the worst back pain. And it's kind of funny because my boyfriend's a chiropractor, so at least I could get it fixed. But what I've now had to do, not just for pageants, but even preparing for model castings or shows where I'm in high heels for long periods of time, is to do lunges and leaning against a wall to stretch out my calves and my lower back. So I do those 30-second back stretches in the morning, or when there's like downtime, when you're waiting for the bus or you're waiting for rehearsals or whatever phase of competition, to do extra stretches so it prevents those pains that I could have later on, and really managing my time so that I could get a full 8 hours of rest. So, um, just keep that in mind when you're preparing for a competition. If you are used to sleeping 8 hours every night, you may compete in pageants like the one I did in Colombia, where we would go to bed at 1 but wake up at 4 a.m. to get our hair and makeup ready. So you may want to train your body a month or at least 2 weeks in advance to have those fluctuating hours of sleep, and gradually decrease your sleep over time. So when you're ready for competition, it doesn't throw your immune system off like it did for me. Or if you're competing internationally, keeping in mind the time difference that you're going to have, not only to sleep, but to also eat as you get older. Get in the habit of eating and sleeping at irregular times before your competition. So, thank goodness that happened to me when I was in Thailand. It wasn't for a pageant, but I noticed how much my immune system shut down when I went to a completely different area, and the time difference for my diet and sleep. So, when I competed in Vietnam, right beforehand, I would go to bed at weird hours of the night, and I would also try to eat at off hours, so that when I went into the airplane and prepared for the competition, it didn't throw me off that I had a direct 12-hour time difference. So those are my takeaways for now. If you have any questions regarding pageants or anything else, please don't hesitate to ask. And yeah, I hope you guys had an amazing pageant girl summer. If you're getting ready to go back to school, best of luck in your school year ahead. And any further questions, just let me know. All right, well, signing off, I am your former Nation of States 2023 slash pageant judge, attendee, competitor, you name it, Elizabeth Tran. Thanks. Bye.